Good evening, friends. The name of tonight's story. I think many friends will laugh after hearing it. 3 turtles crawl into the house. Let me tell you, we don't think this sounds funny. This really happened. But as for the latter part of the story, I have to twist it a bit. After all, this is a story, so please don't take it too seriously. This story tonight was provided to us by a young lady from Nanjing. This young lad's name is Yue Qingying. The story she told happened when she was very, very young. She said at that time, I don't even remember all the events, I only have a vague impression. The remaining details were all told to me by my mother later. This story happened around 1998. Yu Qingying's family lived on the outskirts of Nanjing at that time. It couldn't be called the suburbs. It was a more remote part of Nanjing. Because grandfather got a yard after retirement, the living environment was quite good. Plus, behind the yard, there was a small river. So at that time, Mom and Dad moved to live with Grandpa. One summer, while living at Grandpa's, that summer, suddenly one evening, Dad and Mom and Grandpa were in the yard, cooling off and talking. Mid-sentence, they saw something dark enter the yard gate. At first, they didn't know what it was. When they looked closer, oh my goodness, how strange. A turtle crawled in from the moat, across the way. And this turtle was very large. On top of the turtle shell, there was a small one. Suddenly, the turtle. Grandpa and Dad found it very strange. Isn't this bringing us fortune? What kind of strange event is this? Grandpa immediately grabbed something and covered the turtle. After covering it, he picked it up. The turtle was then placed in a pond in the backyard. So, you might think this is a good thing, right? Turtles are auspicious creatures, and they carry spiritual energy. For example, many old fishermen and people who often play by the river, if they catch a small turtle, they might dare to catch it. But if they catch a large turtle, they might have to release it. They might fear it's a spirit from the river. And this turtle voluntarily came to the house. Isn't that a great omen? At that time, Grandpa, Dad, and Mom were quite happy. That evening, they were even talking about it. Oh, look, this is amazing. Our family is so lucky. A wild turtle just came into our house. In fact, they're thinking, if it were me, I'd think the same. I guess you would too. That would make him so happy. But I never expected that after the turtle arrived, about the 3rd day, strange things started happening in their house that evening. The night something strange happened. It was past midnight. His mom got up around 12:30 to go to the bathroom at night. But just as she came out of the bathroom, whoosh, she saw 2 dark shadows, one tall, one short. The tall one was a bit thin. The short one was a little bit chubby. And it was clear that the tall one looked like a man and the short one looked like a woman. They darted from their living room out into the yard. His mom couldn't go to the bathroom then. She was startled. Intruder! So when she shouted, his dad and Grandpa were both woken up. After waking up, his dad and Grandpa immediately rushed outside. They searched all around the yard, but found no one. Finally, this nighttime incident was concluded by Grandpa and Dad to be that Mom had seen things. There were no signs of anyone entering the yard. But after 2 more days, that evening, around 2 a.m., Mom got up again. After getting up, Mom was quite shaken this time, scared because she'd seen 2 dark figures a few days prior. As soon as she went out, she turned on the living room light. After turning on the light, she prepared to go to the bathroom. But before she took 2 steps, she saw 2 shadows dart out from the bathroom. Then these 2 shadows went through the small hallway of the bathroom to the last window and jumped out. This time, Mom saw it much more clearly because the light was on. Although it didn't illuminate the small hallway inside, there was still some light. Mom got agitated this time. "Hurry up! Someone's really here this time!" Mom shouted again, waking up her dad and Grandpa again. After waking up, the two men searched the house for a long time, but still found no trace of anyone. At that moment, his mom was very agitated, telling her dad, "We have to call the police. Isn't it like someone broke in?" Because their apartment complex was a senior cadre complex for his grandpa. No way would a thief get in here. It's impossible. It's guarded by soldiers. If someone got in, you're talking nonsense. So his dad told his mom, "Oh, it couldn't be a thief. You must have seen things. If it were a thief, they would have been caught in the yard already." But Mom was extremely agitated, insisting her dad call the police. However, with Grandpa's intervention, the police were not called. Because how could it look like you searched the room and no one had entered? And so, that was the end of it. After it was over, the three of them finally decided that Mom should wake Dad up if she needed to use the restroom at night, and have Dad go with her. And from that day on, the living room light was no longer turned off at night. But the precautions they took were completely off the mark, meaning that leaving the light on or having Dad accompany her was useless. About 4 or 5 days later, something truly strange happened one night. One night, about 4 or 5 days later, just before 3 a.m., Mom woke up again. She needed to use the restroom. And this time, Mom woke Dad up. Auntie, I need to use the restroom. Can you come with me?" Dad was groggy from just waking up. Okay. "I'll go with you." He got up and followed Mom to the living room. But as soon as they stepped into the living room, before they even reached the bathroom, they heard two people talking at the end of the hallway. The main speaker was a man. This man sounded young, around 20 years old. His voice was quite young. His voice was very young. And then there was the one responding, who only said a sentence or two, like or yes, just those kinds of words. It was a woman, but this woman was quite old. She was an old lady. But after hearing their conversation, Dad's body was covered in goosebumps. Dad's whole body was covered in goosebumps. Let me act it out for you. What exactly were these two people saying that they overheard? "Sister-in-law, how come I can't get out?" "What should we do? How many days has it been stuck? If we don't go back soon, the time will pass." "Yeah, what should we do about this?" Sigh. "Sister-in-law, should we let them see us? Or tell them? If it continues like this, in 2 more days, it will be troublesome for us to go back." That was all the conversation. That was all they said. Or rather, they just said this. After hearing this, Dad and Mom were terrified. Mom spoke first. "Who is that?" But Dad, with wide eyes, stood frozen on the spot. How can this voice sound like my mother's voice? When Dad said this, Mom got scared. She was so frightened that she pushed backward, hitting the small coffee table next to her. There was something on the table. She didn't know what it was. Crash. Asterisk. The object fell to the floor. Because of the sound, the two people talking in the room suddenly stopped. Then his dad immediately helped his mom and quickly went back to the room. After the two returned to the room, his mom's heart was pounding. She kept asking her dad, "What's going on? Why does that voice sound like your mom's?" Friends, do you not understand this? It's okay. I'll pause for a moment. I'll explain their family situation. They have a grandmother, but this grandmother, before his mom married into their family, had already passed away. So, his mom never met her mother-in-law. But the mother had never met the mother-in-law. But his dad recognized his own mother's voice. Hearing the voice, he thought it was his deceased mother. But at this moment, the man talking to his mom. Who was that? Let's get back to the main story. After his mom asked him that, his dad took a breath. Sigh. Why does this voice sound so much like my mom's? Then, the young laddie's mom continued to ask, I've never met your mom either. And she's your mom, right? Why would your mom come back? And who was that man? The young laddie's dad immediately said, I don't know what's going on. Why is this family experiencing one strange event after another? At that time, the couple talked for a long time by the bed. We won't repeat it. They talked about family matters, just family things, but they couldn't figure out what was happening. They couldn't understand it at all. As a result, that night, they spent over an hour in the room. Later, his mom couldn't hold it in anymore. I need to use the restroom. Finally, with no other choice, his dad slowly took a stick and accompanied his mom to the restroom. However, by the time they got to the restroom again, everything was fine. The two people had disappeared. Then they started to analyze. They analyzed and analyzed, but they couldn't figure out what was happening. It wasn't until the next day that they had to tell their grandpa about it. After telling their grandpa a few words, the grandpa got angry. What? What did you call my daughter-in-law? What did she call you? Then the young lady's dad repeated himself. Dad, she called me brother-in-law. The grandpa's eyes immediately widened. He stared for a long time. Then he turned and looked at me. Ah, I know what's going on. Do you know who that was? My dad didn't understand. Who, Dad? Are you really that stupid? Calling your mom's sister-in-law? Who else could it be? That's your uncle. When the young laddie's dad heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Ah, my uncle. Right, that's it. I do have an uncle. My dad told me before. What's going on now? I still have to explain to you. This young lad is second uncle. He's her dad's younger brother. But Grandpa went to war and disappeared soon after. It was the anti-Japanese war. Then the younger uncle gradually grew up. After growing up, he followed Grandpa to the army. But unexpectedly, Grandpa returned alive later. But the younger uncle was killed by the Japanese devils. So Dad never met his uncle as a child, but he always heard Grandpa talk about it. Then the voice heard last night. This person calls this woman sister-in-law. Then it's basically confirmed now. That woman must be Grandpa's wife. The young lady's dad, his mom calls her sister-in-law. Only this one person is his uncle. So immediately after, the young lady's dad asked Grandpa, Dad, if that's the case, my mom and uncle came to see us. Grandpa immediately nodded upon hearing this. Then suddenly, the young lady's mom spoke up then. "Ah, I remember now. They said something yesterday. They said they were in the water tank. I understand now. Dad, you said these two turtles. One of them must be my mother-in-law, and the other is my uncle." When Mom said this, it instantly reminded the two of them. Grandpa's eyes widened again. Hiss. "Oh my, it's very possible." I said, "Why are these two turtles climbing into our house?" Then immediately, after this was confirmed, right away, Grandpa, Dad, and Mom, the three of them, rushed to the water tank in the backyard. Upon arriving there, they saw the two turtles slowly moving upwards, their eyes wide open, staring at them. Immediately then, Grandpa grabbed a net. He scooped up the two turtles in no time. After scooping them up, he went towards the riverbank with the net. Arriving at the riverbank, he slowly placed the two turtles on the grass. But surprisingly, the two turtles poked their heads out and looked back at them. Then they slowly slipped back into the river. After entering the river, Mom said to our young lady, "These two turtles, look back every few steps, swim a bit forward, look back at us. Swim a bit forward again, look back at us." Your dad and I and Grandpa were at the riverbank, waving at the turtles in the river. We were wondering at the time, if the neighbors saw this, what would we say? Wouldn't they think this family has gone mad? -111. Later, the young lady's mom said to her dad, "Ask his dad that day. Someone passed by, watched us for a long time. They are all neighbors here. If people ask about us later, what should we say?" After the young laddie's father heard this, he was speechless. Didn't know what to do. But it was okay later. These neighbors who were watching the excitement didn't ask them. So this matter, in their home, was basically rarely spoken of to others. Until the young lady grew up, there was once some idle talk, and her mother told her about it. Good evening, friends. There's a rumor online about a snow cherry incident in Jiangxi. To be honest, I haven't really researched this, but when I look at the things they're spreading, I think the story is very captivating at first. But as I read on, it starts to get nonsensical. I feel like this story, no matter what, it seems made up. It's like something a child would write, carelessly, especially the middle and later parts. The writing is extremely unreliable. So, at that time, it wasn't that I was being pedantic, I just argued a bit. I said this story isn't really worth telling, right? It's a bit like a silly little horror story. Then, I didn't expect my words. When spoken in the group, the people in the group didn't say much. Many friends shared my view. Suddenly, a young man from Jiangxi messaged me privately. He said, "Kaiji, this red cherry incident happened in our Jiangxi many years ago, and we in Jiangxi have a real local version. But later, I don't know who spread it online. However, after it was spread online, he felt the local version wasn't that scary, so he embellished it. But the person who embellished it didn't have the skill. He added nonsense. But back then, the internet, few people wrote such things. As a result, this story actually became popular. So, until now, he said the snow cherry version online, he said it was simply unwatchable. But after I heard it, I immediately said, "Dude, don't mess around here. Quickly, give me that so-called local Jiangxi version of snow cherry. Tell it to me. I'll make a show about it right away. And then later, this is how our story came about." Ha ha ha. All right then. So we won't be talking for nothing. I'll tell you right away. This friend, who goes by I Want to Support Argentina, told us about this snow cherry incident in Jiangxi. Speaking of cherries in Jiangxi, I need to explain. Jiangxi does produce cherries, but they are the small, wild type. Meaning, since ancient times, people in Jiangxi have had the habit of picking cherries. But the cherries from Jiangxi aren't the kind you're thinking of. These cherries aren't like those from Shandong or other places I don't know. They're not as red or as big, and not as sweet. But they're sweet and sour, and very tasty. However, these cherries can't really be considered a commodity. They aren't sold from Jiangxi to all parts of the country. It hasn't reached that point. But thanks to the local soil and water, and the climate being very suitable for growing them, plus China's agricultural development and technological advancements in farming, around the year 2000, many villages in Jiangxi became very popular for growing these cherries. And with favorable timing, location, and people, the cherries grown in Jiangxi might not be as big as Shandong's, but they are more refined than Shandong's. And reportedly, Jiangxi can now grow the South American cherries. Obviously, all of this is thanks to our scientists and Mother Nature giving Jiangxi its unique climate, which allows these delicious fruits to be grown. But why am I telling you this? Because this story happened many years ago. The story took place in '98. At that time, a very small number of people in Western Hunan were starting to research how to grow these big, beautiful cherries. But this was definitely not common at the time. In other words, in the late 90s, the local Jiangxi people's perception was that our local cherries were small and sour. Although tasty, they weren't this big. So, if anyone saw someone selling, like the modern ones, big red cherries, the local Jiangxi people back then would definitely have been very curious. This is the prelude to our story. So you need to understand all this, otherwise you won't be able to follow the rest of the story. Now, let's get to the story itself. When did this story take place? Late '98. Late in the year. One day, a young man in a certain city in Jiangxi was at home. He was just chilling at home. Then his pager beeped. After it beeped, the young man immediately picked up the phone to call back the pager number. On the other end, they told him, "What are you doing? Are you going out? We're not far from your place, eating at a roadside stall. Come on over."